The smell hit Jake first. Burnt coffee and defeat. The particular scent of a truck stop at 4 a.m. when hope runs thin.
Come on, hurry, don't look back.
He sat in the corner booth of the all-night diner outside Asheville, his leather cut. The vest that marked him as road captain of the Iron Ravens MC, draped over calloused hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched in 20 minutes. 53 years old, 26 years sober, and still, some nights, the ghost rode harder than he ever had. Through the window, the parking lot sprawled in sodium vapor yellow. His brothers were out there, 8 bikes lined up like sentinels, chrome catching the light. They'd ridden through the night after a charity run, delivering Christmas toys to kids in the Smokies. Good work, clean work, the kind that made his sponsor nod approval during their weekly calls. But tonight, the old static buzzed in his skull. The kind that came before he did something stupid or something right.
You folks all right?
With Jake, it had always been a coin flip. More coffee, hun. The waitress was 60-ish, name tag reading Deb, eyes that had seen every kind of trouble walk through that door. She held the pot like a weapon or a peace offering. Jake could never tell which. I'm good. You look like you're waiting for something. Jake's jaw worked. Aren't we all? Deb smiled, sad and knowing, and moved on. The door chimed. Jake's eyes tracked the movement automatically, the way they had since Fallujah, since the hit that took his hearing in the left ear and his illusions about invincibility everywhere else. A woman entered, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. She wore scrubs under a coat 2 sizes too big, and she moved like someone trying not to be seen. Behind her, a kid, maybe 8, 9 years old. Small for his age, the kind of small that came from skipped meals and constant tension. He wore a backpack that dwarfed him, and his eyes, Jesus, his eyes, scanned the diner like a soldier clearing a room. Jake recognized that look. He'd worn it himself at that age, before his mother finally got them out, before the man who called himself his father went to prison for things Jake still couldn't say out loud. The woman and boy took a booth near the restrooms. Strategic. Easy exit. She ordered hot chocolate for the kid, nothing for herself. Her hands shook when she counted out exact change, ones and quarters, the currency of desperation. Jake looked away. Not his business. He had a rule about that now. You can't save everyone, his sponsor always said. You can barely save yourself. But the kid kept looking at the door. 20 minutes passed. The woman's phone rang 3 times. She never answered, just stared at the screen until it went dark. The kid finished his hot chocolate and started on the crackers Deb brought without being asked, the kind of Grace truck stop waitresses offered when they recognized the signs. Jake's own phone buzzed. Text from Marcus, his VP. You coming? Getting cold out here. Jake typed. Back. 5 minutes. He stood, left cash on the table, enough to cover his coffee and then some. Walked past the woman's booth without looking, without engaging, without breaking his rule. Made it to the door. The kid's voice stopped him, quiet, but sharp enough to cut through the diner's drone. Mom, he's calling again. Jake's hand froze on the door handle. The woman's voice, barely above a whisper. Don't answer. But he said, I don't care what he said, baby. We're safe here. Safe here. 2 words that meant they weren't safe somewhere else. Jake's fist clenched on the handle. The metal was cold, real. He could walk out, get on his bike, ride into the dark with his brothers and pretend he hadn't heard the tremor in that woman's voice, the fear poorly disguised as reassurance. He'd gotten good at pretending. Behind him, the phone rang again. This time, the kid's voice cracked. Mom, please. Maybe if we just go back. No. Firmer now. We're not going back. Jake turned around. The woman saw him coming, and something flickered across her face. Not fear exactly, but calculation. Jake knew how he looked. 6'2", 220, of muscle and scar tissue, beard shot through with gray, the patches on his cut telling a story most people couldn't read. Road captain, 1% diamond, Afghanistan combat veteran ribbon. He stopped a respectful distance away, kept his hands visible. Spoke low, "Ma'am, I don't mean to intrude, but if you need help, my brothers and I—" He gestured toward the window, where the bikes sat gleaming under the lights. "We know people, legal people, safe people." The woman's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "We're fine. Mom," the kid started. "We're fine, Tyler." But Tyler was looking at Jake with something like hope, and Jake recognized that too. The desperate belief that maybe, just maybe, the next adult would be different. "My name's Jake," he said, crouching down to be at eye level with the boy. "Jake Garrett. I ride with the Iron Ravens. You know what we do, Tyler?" The kid shook his head. "We protect people, especially kids. Especially kids who've seen things they shouldn't have to see." Jake paused. "Your mom's brave for getting you out. That's the hardest part, but you don't have to do the rest alone." The woman's voice broke. "You don't understand. Try me." She looked at her son, at Jake, at the phone on the table that had gone mercifully silent. When she spoke, the words came out like glass. "His father, my husband, he works for the sheriff's department. Everyone knows him. Everyone likes him. When I tried to file a report last year, his buddies laughed at me. Said I must have misunderstood. Said couples fight." Jake's blood went cold and hot simultaneously. "Where is he now?" "Home. He was working night shift, but he gets off at 6 when he finds us gone." She checked her phone. 4:47 a.m. "We have an hour, maybe less." "Where are you headed?" "My sister's in Charlotte. If we can just get there." "You'll never make it," Jake said flatly. "Not if he's law enforcement. He'll have your plates flagged before you hit the county line." The woman's face crumpled. "Then what do I do?" Jake stood. His mind was moving fast now, the way it did in combat when the situation went sideways and you had to adapt or die. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts, found the one he needed. "I'm calling a friend, federal prosecutor, worked with us on a trafficking case last year. She'll know how to handle this right." He looked at the woman. "But first, you need to trust me. Can you do that?" She studied his face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there must have been enough, because she nodded. "Tyler," Jake said, "you ever ridden on a motorcycle?" Outside, Marcus and the others stood from where they'd been leaning against their bikes. Jake's sergeant-at-arms, a tree trunk of a man named Booker, took one look at Jake's face and straightened. "We got a situation? We got a situation?" Jake laid it out in clean, tactical terms. Domestic violence victim fleeing with minor child, abuser with law enforcement connections, approximately 1 hour before pursuit begins. "I need 2 of you to take her car, drive it to Charlotte, leave it at a shopping center, create a false trail. I need the rest of you to—" "Escort detail," Marcus finished. He was grinning, the kind of grin that meant someone was about to have a very bad day, and it wasn't going to be them. "Been a minute since we ran one of these." It had been more than a minute. The Iron Ravens had started doing formal domestic violence escorts 5 years back, after a case that hit too close to home for too many of them. They'd partnered with a shelter network, gotten training on protocols, learned how to work with, not against, the legal system. Some people saw bikers and thought trouble. The Ravens had decided to make that assumption work for them. "Deb," Jake called through the door. "You got a back exit?" The waitress appeared, already pulling keys from her pocket. "Through the kitchen. I'll make sure nobody sees which way they went." God bless truck stop waitresses. 20 minutes later, They were moving. The woman, her name was Sarah, rode behind Marcus on his Road King. Tyler sat in front of Jake, small hands gripping the tank, a helmet, borrowed from Deb's nephew, who worked the late shift, wobbling slightly on his head. "You scared?" Jake asked. "No," Tyler lied. "It's okay to be scared. Brave isn't not being scared. Brave is being scared and doing it anyway. Your mom's the bravest person I've met this week. She cries at night. When she thinks I'm asleep." Jake's hands tightened on the grips. "That's because she loves you. Because she's been carrying this alone and she's tired. But she's not alone anymore. You got that?" "Yes, sir." "And Tyler, whatever happens next, whatever your dad told you about what makes a man, about what love looks like, he lied. Real men don't hurt people they're supposed to protect. Real men don't make kids afraid to go home. You remember that?" The boy was silent for a moment. Then, "Are you a real man, Mr. Jake?" The question hit harder than it should have. "I'm trying to be," Jake said quietly. "Every day I'm trying." They rode. The safe house was 40 minutes north, tucked in the mountains where cell service was spotty and strangers were noticed. It was run by a woman named Patricia, former Marine, former trauma nurse, former wife of a man who'd put her in the ICU twice before she put him in the ground, with a restraining order and a concealed carry permit. Patricia met them at the door, took one look at Sarah and Tyler, and ushered them inside without a word. She'd seen 1,000 variations of this story. She knew what they needed wasn't questions. Jake's phone buzzed. His contact, Assistant U.S. Attorney Lisa Chen, had come through. "2 things," she'd texted. "First, I'm filing an emergency protective order first thing Monday morning. Second, I called a buddy at State Police Internal Affairs. They're very interested in a conversation with Deputy... What's his name?" Jake typed the name Sarah had given him. Watched the dots appear as Lisa processed it. "Oh, him," came the reply. "We've had our eye on him. This gives us cause to dig deeper. Tell your friend she might be saving more than just herself." Jake showed Sarah the messages, watched her read them once, twice, 3 times, like she couldn't quite believe the words. "This is real?" she whispered. "This is real? What happens now?" "Now?" Patricia said, appearing with hot tea and blankets. "Now you rest, then tomorrow we start the hard work. Paperwork, statements, building a case. It's not fast and it's not easy, but you don't have to do it alone." Tyler was already asleep on the couch, curled under a quilt, his small face finally relaxed. Sarah looked at her son, and something in her posture shifted, the rigid terror easing into exhaustion, and underneath that, something harder, stronger. "I should have left sooner," she said. "You left now," Jake replied. "That's what matters." They stayed through dawn. Jake and Marcus stood watch outside. Unnecessary, probably, but rituals mattered. As the sun broke over the ridge, painting the mountains in shades of gold and rose, Marcus lit a cigarette and offered the pack. Jake waved it off. "Gave that up too." "You gave up everything fun." "I'm still here. That's fun enough." Marcus laughed, low and rough. "You know he's going to come looking, the husband. He'll figure it out eventually." "Let him," Jake said. "Between us, the feds, and internal affairs, he's done. He just doesn't know it yet." "You think she'll be okay? Really okay?" Jake watched the lights spread across the valley, thought about his own mother, who'd finally left when Jake was 12. Thought about how long it had taken her to stop flinching at raised voices, to believe she deserved better, to trust that better was even possible. "I think she'll have bad days," he said finally. "I think she'll have nightmares. I think she'll second-guess herself 1,000 times. But I think she'll also have mornings where she drinks coffee without looking over her shoulder. I think her kid will grow up knowing his mom chose him over fear. That's worth something. You ever wonder, Marcus said, if we're trying to fix ourselves through these people, like saving them saves us somehow? Jake considered this. Maybe. But if I gotta be broken, might as well break towards something useful. 2 weeks later, Jake got a text from an unknown number. Tyler wants to learn to ride a bike. The pedal kind? He's never had one. Thank you for showing him there are different kinds of strong. No signature. Didn't need one. Jake showed it to his sponsor at their next meeting. The old man, 28 years sober, Marine Corps veteran, grandfather of 6, read it twice and handed the phone back. You know the serenity prayer, he said. Change what you can, accept what you can't. Wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. You're getting better at the wisdom part. Jake thought about that night at the truck stop. About the moment his hand was on the door, ready to walk away. About the choice to turn around. I'm getting better at listening, he said. Good, his sponsor said. Keep listening. The world's full of people crying out. Not all of them use words. 3 months later, Jake and 6 of his brothers stood in a courtroom. They weren't testifying. They'd been careful about that, making sure everything went through proper channels. But Sarah had asked them to be there when the judge handed down the ruling, and the Ravens didn't say no to things like that. The judge, a woman with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, granted the permanent protective order. Then, in a tone that could freeze fire, she addressed the defendant. Deputy Harrison, you violated the oath you took to protect and serve. You used your badge to intimidate, your authority to manipulate, and your position to ensure your victim had nowhere to turn. This court finds your conduct reprehensible, and I am recommending your case to the State Attorney General for criminal prosecution. The deputy, who'd swaggered into court like he owned it, left in handcuffs. Outside, Sarah hugged each of them. Tyler stood close to his mother, no longer that small, scared boy from the diner. He'd grown 2 inches, put on some weight, started sleeping through the night. What happens now? Jake asked Sarah. She smiled. The real kind, the kind that reached her eyes. We rebuild. Tyler starts Little League next week. I got a job at the hospital, better hours. We're renting a little house near my sister. She paused. And we're staying. Staying? Not running anymore? This is our home now. Jake nodded, felt something ease in his chest, a knot he hadn't realized was there. As they walked to the bikes, Tyler ran up, tugging on Jake's cut. Mr. Jake? When I grow up, can I be like you? Jake crouched down, looked the kid straight in the eye. Tyler, you can be better than me. You can be the kind of man who never makes someone afraid, who uses his strength to protect, not to hurt. Who knows the difference between power and bullying. He put a hand on the boy's shoulder. That's the kind of man your mom's raising, don't forget it. Yes, sir. They rode out of town as the sun set, 8 bikes in formation, the rumble of engines rolling through the valley like thunder before rain. Jake rode point, Marcus on his 6, the brothers flanking them in practiced precision. His phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. There's a woman in Hickory. Her daughter called our hotline. She needs help. Are you available? Jake looked at the message, looked at his brothers, these men who'd chosen to channel their darkness towards something light, looked at the roads stretching ahead, full of possibility and pain, people crying out in words and without them. He typed back, when? Tonight. Jake forwarded the message to Marcus, who read it and grinned. The kind of grin that meant they weren't headed home just yet. The kind that meant someone was about to learn that help came in leather and chrome and second chances. Hickory's 2 hours north, Marcus said. Then we better get moving. They rode. Behind them, the town faded into dusk. Ahead, someone was waiting. someone who needed to learn that their story didn't have to end in fear. That sometimes, when you whispered for help into the dark thundered back with engines and meant it. Jake thought about Tyler, about his mother, about all the nights he'd spent wondering if he was worth saving. Thought about the answer he'd found. You save yourself by saving others. You rebuild yourself by helping others build something new. It wasn't the life he'd imagined, wasn't the one he'd have chosen. Back when choosing meant running from everything instead of towards something. But it was the life he had, and mile by mile, rescue by rescue, it was starting to feel like enough. The mountains rose ahead, dark against a darkening sky. Somewhere up there, someone was scared. Someone was waiting. The Iron Ravens throttled up and disappeared into the night, carrying the promise they'd made to themselves and each other. That no one had to be alone in the dark. Not while they had fuel in the tank and brothers at their back. Not on their watch. Not ever again.